The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome to the Patrick Riggins Show. That's a good advice. Keep on smiling. And that's what we do here. We are constantly in a good humor, constantly having fun, even while we are fighting to regain the ground we have lost against an increasingly tyrannical government. One of the reasons I'm always in a good mood on this show is because liquor. No. Yeah. It's because of the backing we get from this radio station.
Which is liquor.
We have one of the biggest signals on the air, in case you didn't know that. 100,000 watts pumping out, and if you're not sure where your radio is tuned right now, or you're driving and don't know which preset button you just pushed, you're listening to 100.3 WNOX, broadcasting from the massive studio complex located here on Kingston Pike in scenic Knoxville, Tennessee. However, you don't have to rely solely on your broadcast band radio to receive this show. You can watch and listen to the simulcast over the internet at www.wnoxfm.com. Within the luxurious studio here, one of the many accoutrements is the webcam on which you can watch everything happening here in the studio. If you're watching there, and the address again, if you need it, is wnoxfm.com. If you're watching there, you'll see me sitting behind the microphone, working to reestablish the dynasty of freedom and liberty that America used to be, and once again will be when we are rid of all the busybodies in Washington. Sitting here to my left, riding shotgun, is the show producer, Tori.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Tori.
Hello.
Sitting over here in the aquarium, looking out the wonderful day we have
Looks
today.
pretty outside.
It's very nice. When I came in a little bit ago, it was just felt great out there. I'd like to move this show out onto the sidewalk if we could.
Yeah, just take everything out and just sit it right in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah. The only downside of that, the rocks people throw, since we sit in here, it hits the window and they get stopped. But if we're out there, we'll go off to dodge them. So
Put you out right out on side of Kingston Pike. Get you a little table. Be like one of the sign spinners.
Exactly. Throw around, hey, WOX Patrick. Spin that little sign around and jump into traffic. Or put a little can out there like they do at the side of the ramp.
That may cause too much traffic jams. Just, it would be chaos.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Probably lining up to get the autograph.
Yeah. Well, what about me? Would they get my autograph or just yours?
Have you sign their hands and shake their babies and...
Yeah, exactly.
No, wait a minute. That's...
Yeah, shake their babies and sign their hands.
There, yes. Thank you. Wait, no.
That's it. All right. Thanks again for tuning in this week. Hey, I am Patrick Riggins. If you didn't pick up on that already, bringing you another week of advice, information, news, and commentary, all from a remarkable intelligence over which I have no control. People ask me sometimes, Patrick, how did you get so smart?
How did you get so smart, Patrick?
How is it that you have these amazing insights into the issues?
Yeah, what you said.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be the first to admit it. I'm pretty dumb. But fortunately...
No argument there.
Yeah, exactly. No one's going to argue with that. I've been blessed with an incredible brain that makes up for all that. If someone asks me something, I'll tell them straight away if I don't know, if the answer is not right in the front of my conscious brain. But I can put the question up there, let my brain work on it, and after a little while, the answer gets sent down to me. I think everybody has access to this. You know a lot more than you think you do. You possess limitless creativity, intelligence, much more than schooling or testing will show. The key to access it is always keep learning something new. This keeps your brain growing, making those new neuronal connections there. When something comes along you don't have an immediate answer to, give it to your brain to work on. It will pull all this diverse information and learning together and get the answer for you. Now, sometimes it takes a minute, sometimes it takes an hour. Sometimes it might take a few days, but as you do it more and more, your brain gets better at it and the answers come faster. Now, I know a lot of you out there think this is probably a bunch of BS, but just think about the last time you tried to recall a person's name or a place you visited or a song you heard on the radio. And the more you tried to remember it, the less you could recall. But once you decided to stop trying to remember and let your brain get a crack at it, later all of a sudden you remember it. Sometimes it isn't until you're sleeping, because your brain is so busy with your day-to-day living. Sleeping gives it a chance to work on retrieving this memory without interruption. That's why sometimes you wake up and say, hey, Wet Willie, that's the artist Patrick played at the beginning of this show this last week. I challenge you this week to start trying to learn something, anything you didn't know each day. You don't have to become a master on the subject, just something that might be interesting to you, or some background about a country in the news, anything. You'll find as you do that more and more, your brain will start being able to retrieve this information quicker and more accurately. It will also get used to storing and retrieving new items instead of the same old thing every day. I think that's why this radio station is starting to become such a sensation. It's an anomaly. You don't hear the same old regurgitated establishment party line echoed over and over about how this person will save the country from another. And that's what tends to stand out in your brain, are the anomalies. What you hear on here is how you are going to have to make a difference in this country. There is no one in office right now. Okay, maybe a few, but at most a handful of people holding office right now who are interested in moving this country back towards more freedom and liberty. So it's going to be up to you to do it. After all, it's your country. It's my country, our country. So let's start fixing these problems and kick out the people creating them. We're up on the first break here of the Patrick Riggin Show. And we'll be back with just a jam-packed show this week. Talk about the debate, of course, and all the other little stuff that these two clowns are saying. Yeah, it is a circus. We'll be back after these messages.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggin Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggin Show. Your lighthouse of freedom and liberty through the fog of government tyrannical propaganda, otherwise known as the evening news. Once again, we had a presidential debate this week. This time it took a town hall format, but the candidates were not really ever asked any real hard questions. Personally, I refuse to watch these massive wastes of time because I already know what I need to know about the latest two contestants on Presidential Survivor United States Edition. One of the big reasons I hate watching the debates is the long line of serfs, these helpless sheep who show up asking how the president is going to help them. What is he going to do to fix this person's situation? Now, as I said, I don't watch the debates, but I'm going to play a few clips of the questions that were asked by the working slaves to the two guys vying to be their master. The reason I don't play the answers is because, well, I don't want to hear what these two clowns have to say about further socializing my beloved country. The other reason is that I'm going to answer them, so you'll know how the candidates should have replied had either one of them been interested in freedom and liberty. And they started off with, this was the first little whining question.
I want to turn to a first-time voter, Jeremy Epstein, who has a question for you.
Mr. President, Governor Romney, as a 20-year-old college student, all I hear from professors, neighbors, and others is that when I graduate, I will have little chance to get employment. What can you say to reassure me, but more importantly, my parents, that I will be able to sufficiently support myself after I graduate?
Well, let's see. First off, Stop looking to the government to take care of you. Depend on yourself for once. I know this is hard because more than likely this student is receiving government grants and or government loans to attend college, so he is already being primed for a life of looking to government for answers. Now, how can he correct this? Easy. Stop taking government aid. Now, you're probably going to have to get a job while you're in college, and you might not have much free time anymore, but you will be ridding yourself of this painful addiction that you're starting to government handouts, which, to be honest, are not government handouts, but rather the redistribution of the theft of assets from your fellow citizens. Unfortunately, a lot of people in this country don't have any problem with that, with the possession of stolen property, stolen at the point of a gun from other citizens. Because, hey, screw them, I have to get what I can get, right?
Your Energy Secretary, Stephen Chu, has now been on record 3 times stating it's not policy of his department to help lower gas prices. Do you agree with Secretary Chu that this is not the job of the Energy Department?
My response to this question would be, I would guess by asking this question, you believe it is the job of the Energy Department to help lower gas prices, correct? Well, you aren't going to have to worry about that anymore. One of the first things I'm going to do is eliminate the Energy Department, along with a bunch of other wasteful departments who have no use other than to put a bunch of self-righteous, over-educated bureaucrats in charge of the American people. And to answer your question, no, it is not the government's job to be meddling in industry, in any industry, and trying to regulate pricing. Next question.
In what new ways do you intend to rectify the inequalities in the workplace, specifically regarding females making only 72% of what their male counterparts earn?
Now, this is why I could never run for public office, because my first question to this ignorant question being asked by an obviously just as clueless person would be something along the lines of, well, ma'am, my plan is to ban women from the workplace altogether. If they cannot make as much as men make, then obviously we don't need them working there. I mean, if the business really needed them, they would pay them better to stay, right? It's only common sense. And of course, that first cynical answer would be the one played over and over on all the news shows for that week. Actually, that might be a good thing, because it would give the talking heads something to scream about and maybe boost their already dismal ratings. Heck, it might even double MSNBC's audience, which I think would make it around 175 people or so.
That's giving too much credit.
Yeah, Tori says that's too much credit. Although I think really half of those viewers are probably elderly who don't realize they are not on the Andy Griffith channel. But hey, a viewer is a viewer, right? They'll take all they can get.
And the other half are the ones that can't figure out how to change the channel.
Yeah, exactly. It's stuck on there. But back to the question, and I'm sure you can guess my answer. Ma'am, it is none of the government's business how much women are paid in the private sector. None. Whatever you can get paid, grab it. If one company won't pay you an amount you would consider worthy of your talents and abilities, jump ship and go to one that will. If you are as good at your job as you think you are, then you should not have any problem with companies fighting over each other to hire you. If they aren't doing that, and you aren't getting paid what you think you are worth, then maybe it is time to do a little honest, and note I said honest, self-evaluation to determine if you need more education, more skills, or you might just need more work experience to improve on what you already know. Now, the key part of that equation is the word honest self-evaluation. And if you aren't capable of that, or you still cannot come up with a reason, there is a simple way to find out. Go to your boss and ask. Tell him or her why you feel you deserve a pay raise. And if they don't agree, then ask what you need to do to become more valuable to the company and thus deserving of a raise in their eyes. But who knows? That would involve work, and maybe even a little rejection if the answer wasn't one you wanted to hear. So it is just much, much easier to get the government to make your employer give you a raise whether you deserve it or not. Hey, it works for the unions, right? So why not you? Next question.
The outsourcing of American jobs overseas has taken a toll on our economy. What plans do you have to put back and keep jobs here in the United States?
Naturally, the first question you should ask this person is, do they enjoy being able to go to Walmart, or any electronic store and buy a television with the newest, latest, and greatest technology for under $200? I do. Yeah, exactly. Tori enjoys it. You enjoy buying all sorts of electronics, don't you?
Yes.
Cheaper prices.
Yes.
It is outsourced manufacturing that allows this.
No.
Yes, that dirty little secret. Because of government regulations and the refusal of Americans to work for lower pay than their government check, we cannot produce these types of things in America cheaper than they can outside the country. Personally, I'm glad a majority of Americans can enjoy a higher class of living because of imported goods. More people probably own a flat-screen TV now than ever before. We throw away all kinds of things in this country that our grandparents would have held on to way beyond its useful life. And why do we do that? Because the items are very inexpensive. It isn't a wise use of money to fix something if you can buy something new for the same price. Now take your car, for instance. If it stops working, you take it to the shop and get it fixed. Why? Because it is too expensive just to go buy another one. If your TV stops working, you throw it away and get a new one. If your house needs painting, do you just go buy another one with new paint on it? Well, of course not. You paint the one you have. If you break the case or screen on your cell phone, you go get a new one. Heck, if you're at U.S. Cellular down the street here, you'll probably have enough upgrade points to get a better one anyway. The point is, government should not be interfering in business decisions. In fact, if the government would drop all these burdensome regulations we have, we would have a substantially better business-friendly environment, and more of them would opt to stay in the country. When you regulate things, they tend to become scarce. When you allow freedom and a chance to prosper, you get more of whatever it is you're freeing, and usually a better quality as well. Government's not interested in quality, though. And yeah, I've got enough time. I'll tell this quick story here. I stopped by one of our county clerk's offices to renew my driver's license. The hours listed as being open until 4:30 p.m., but they stopped taking applications at 4. Supposedly, so they'll have a chance to get everyone lined up before closing time. So I walk into the office and ask about renewing my license, and the guy behind the counter tells me they stopped taking applications at 4. Well, he and I both look up at the clock, and it says 10 minutes till. I said, hey, your clock says I have 10 minutes. And of course, his lame excuse was, well, it runs a little slow. And we have a lot of people to get to before 4:30. Now, let's contrast this with a private business. A while back, I was finishing up a little DIY project one night and ran a little short of this particular type of nail I had to use. Now, I didn't have any of these things. They're ceramic coated, or not ceramic, but they were cement coated so they wouldn't rust and everything. So I had to get some more real quick, so I run over to Home Depot, but get there after they had locked the doors. I turn around, start to walk back to my car. The manager of the store opens the door, yells to me to come back over, and he asks what I need to get. I said, well, I need this particular box of nails that I had to have because I had to finish this project, and I didn't have the correct ones. Well, as I stood at the front, he runs to the hardware area, gets the box of nails, brought it back up to where I was standing. Mind you, this is only about a $3 box of nails. But now we ran into the problem. The cash register drawers has already been pulled, so he had no way to ring anything up. So I figured he'd have to go back to the back of the store, get a cash drawer, bring it up front, restart the register just for this $3 sale. Instead, he hands me the box and told me to not worry about it. Where do you think I shop now? That is a difference in private business and government. Government doesn't care if you're satisfied. Government doesn't care if you're hurt by something it does. Government doesn't care if it puts you out of business. Government is a monopoly with guns. You don't like it? Tough. They don't allow competing governments in this country. And if you try and set one up, they'll be bringing those guns and making sure you, or anyone else for that matter, don't ever try it again. So we're up on the bottom of the hour here at the Patrick Riggins Show. We have a couple messages. We'll come back with a bunch more. Be sure and join us. Like I said, it's about 2-3 minutes. Listen to these messages. These are the guys that help keep us on the air. This is Patrick Riggins. We'll be back.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
This is welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Did that go out on the air?
Yeah. As soon as I touched the button, you gobbed all over the mic.
Yeah, I had to cough right as the mic came on. Hey, look, if
live
there's
radio.
I'll tell you what, if there's anyone out there that has had this bronchitis stuff, they'll know exactly what I'm going through. Because you get this stuff in your chest, and for some reason you have it for the next month. And it's not a, huge cough. It's not a big thing, but it's just a every 5 minutes, and it drives you crazy. So, but you don't tune in to listen to Patrick whine. You tune in to listen to Patrick rant.
Difference.
There is a difference. Anyway, let's see. What do we got on this hour? Oh, okay. Here's a story which I want you guys to kind of think about, because this kind of puts the shoe on the other foot as far as this is concerned. It's about the upcoming election, and we've heard about all these things about voter fraud. And if you're worried about that, this fraud that may occur, you can rest easy now, because United Nations affiliated election monitors from Europe and Central Asia will be at the polling places around the United States to look for voter suppression being conducted by conservative groups.
Why would United Nations even care?
Well, it's because we're all one big, happy, global family. Now we have some dysfunctional relatives over there in the Middle East, but we just all need to come together, hug each other, and sing, and everything will be okay.
Thought we were the stepkids that was kept in the basement.
No,
Under the stairs.
We're more like the older brother who goes around giving raspberries to all the other countries, kind of bullying these other countries.
I want to be the strange Uncle Joe that nobody's really not quite sure about nor wants to get around.
That would probably be... Who would that be? I guess that would be Greenland.
Sorry.
So, if we have anybody in Greenland listen over the internet, they're going to be mad. Anyway, so these United Nations election monitors are going to be watching and looking for that voter suppression. Again, they say being conducted by conservative groups, so I guess if the Black Panthers are trying to intimidate voters, well, that's okay. But let some soccer mom look at someone the wrong way, and out you go. Now, does this offend anyone besides me? The United Nations has no jurisdiction over us, nor our elections. You want to know what it's like being in another country with the United States sticking its nose in your business? Well, this is it. Now, access of international observers during voting is explicitly allowed in some states, such as Missouri, South Dakota, North Dakota, and New Mexico. I'm wondering why that is.
Because, Patrick, those are the rules.
Yes. Now, this has been brought on courtesy of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, the NAACP, the ACLU, and a few other liberal groups. And they sent a letter to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which is an active partner of the United Nations. In this letter, the groups warned of a coordinated political effort to disenfranchise millions of Americans, particularly traditionally disenfranchised groups like minorities. What this means is if Obama loses, they're going to cry foul. Now, lest you think this is something new, these jokers have been coming into our country and observing our elections since 2002. One of the complaints of intimidation, by the way, was a billboard in Ohio warning that voter fraud is a felony, punishable up to 3.5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Okay, so if I tell you about the penalty for a crime, that's intimidation? No, that's called dissuasion. I'm trying to enlighten you as to the outcome of your actions should you decide to take them. In this case, voter fraud. It's really no different than the gun crime means hard time billboards you see up along the interstate. Anyway, we've got a couple of calls here. We're going to get to them. Let's go to Cindy up there in Mauricetown. How are you doing, Cindy?
I'm doing fine. I want to know how old you are.
How old I am?
Uh-huh.
I'm 29.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
I should have figured as much. I'm going to tell you something, young man. I've been listening to your program since you started.
All righty.
And I had to call WNOX to find out when you moved. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. Don't be telling women that they don't deserve the same equal pay, because we do. And I'm telling you what, if the government hadn't stepped in, I would never have made any decent money.
Okay. Do you think that's the government's business about what a private business pays you?
Exactly. And they did.
It is.
When I started earning money. I'm telling you what, it's mighty hard on minimum wage. And I worked all of my life.
Mm-hmm.
All of it. And I'm living on Social Security now. But I'm telling you what, it's mighty hard to live on minimum wage.
Exactly.
And raise your children.
So do you think that's not... So you're all for government telling business exactly what to do?
Not exactly, but they started stepping in and making them pay us something.
Well, that's interfering in business.
When I'm standing there and I'm training you to do your job, and you're going to be my boss, and I'm making $8,000, and I had to walk out. And you're fixing to make $40,000. Now you're my boss.
Mm-hmm. So why would you stay at a business like that? Why would you stay at a business that treats you that way?
All kinds of businesses. I was a secretary.
No, I'm asking, if a business was treating you unfairly, why would you stay there?
I didn't. I had to job jump.
Exactly. That's my point. So you see what I'm saying? What I'm saying
you don't
is...
have a job convenient to your home because you have to job jump to get a decent salary.
Sure. And see, the businesses that treat their employees unfairly will end up going out of business because they run off good people.
No.
They don't run off... You think most people...
Because it's convenient for them, and they stay no matter what. You need to get out into the working world, and you need to start talking to people. You're only 29 years old. Maybe you ought to talk to your mama.
Yeah, I was joking about the 29. I was joking about the 29.
How old are you?
I am 45.
25?
40.
45?
Yes, ma'am. I've worked crappy jobs. I've worked retail. I've worked jobs where I've not got paid anything. But I didn't stay at minimum wage long. When I started working, I worked in agriculture that can pay you under minimum wage.
Right.
Right. And what did I do? I worked there, got work experience, and worked my way up. That's the key. Most people
they don't promote women. They don't promote women. They got you. I had a man tell me one time when I was applying for a job, and thank God it was over the telephone because there was a gas crisis back in Carter, and he told me that I didn't need a job, that I needed a sugar daddy.
Well, no, I'm open to a sugar mama if there's one out there that wants to,
but you know. You can do that if you want. But I have to go and turn myself into a horse so I can have something to eat. I don't think so.
Well, that's the whole point. You believe that government should tell business in a limited quantity what they should do, correct?
And once they started doing that, women started moving up, and women started having something decent to wear and something to eat.
Yeah, well, and once they started doing that,
the economy around.
That's when you start getting this government creeping, into business more and more.
I don't like government in business. I don't particularly like the government. I like your program. I like what you say. and I have really enjoyed it. And I've been telling people to listen to your program, but you need to get out in the working world and start talking to some women, and talk to all the women, talk to them in all levels of work, and start seeing how hard it is. You cannot move up. They will not move a woman up. If there's 5 women that are better qualified, and there's 1 man, he gets the job because he's a man.
Okay. Well, Cindy, I appreciate the show, and I appreciate you listening, telling others. I'm up on the break here, but you just told you too. You just told all the listeners, and that's what we're here about, to get the other side out. Anyway, this is Patrick Riggins. We're up on the last break. We'll get to a couple more calls when we come back, and I guess it'll be a couple of minutes. So we'll be back here in a minute. This is Patrick Riggins' Patrick Riggins Show.
'Cause I've heard it all before. Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
This is the Patrick Riggins Show. Spinning bumper music courtesy of Tori. All hate mail can go to him.
Thank you. That's the producer being a smart aleck, is what they
Yes. But it's good. It's all in good fun.
It's all jokes now, so I mean, it's all done in good humor.
Yes, don't throw stones at Tori.
Please, I'm breakable.
He is breakable. So anyway, let's get to another call here real quick. We've got a couple more on here. We'll see if we can work through them before the end of the show. We'll kind of take them as we got them. Brian in Fountain City. Brian in Fountain City, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Good to hear your show. And,
good to have you listening.
And I'll try not to give you an earful like the previous caller.
I just kind of punched her button there a little bit. But hey, that's what we want to do. We want people thinking and not just accepting.
It may be that I punch you at this point, but earlier in the show you played one of the questions, and I guess it was a young college student wondering about what the government could do for him.
Sure.
And reassure him that there would be some sort of good-paying job, and what about his parents. They probably don't have to crash at his parents' house till he's 30.
Yeah.
But I actually thought about that, and there is one thing. I mean, it's so dead obvious, and no one ever wants to talk about it. And that would be for me to abolish NAFTA.
Yeah.
Because that was absolutely devastating to the Tennessee Valley. I mean, Levi's, Panasonic, Magnavox, Palm Beach, Dan River, just to name some off the top of my head. There's hardly any manufacturing here, and not like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now it has to be, I need so much education to go sit in a cubicle and, sit there and push pixels around on a screen.
Yeah.
And used to, you could, straight out of high school, a person, male or female, could get a decent paying job, work their way through the ranks, and, they could actually make enough money, and with longevity at a company, get bank loans, for a house or a car. They could raise their children and not even really ever have to go to college for, that uber education that we all, seem to value above all other things. And we've outsourced so much of our manufacturing, and it's basically cheap stuff that we have to replace a lot more often than the stuff that used to be made here in the States.
Well, let me ask, what is the answer for that then?
Abolish NAFTA. Abolish NAFTA. And it's, put this on a level playing field. I mean, there's one particular big box store that you mentioned earlier has factories in China, and those people are making goods and doing their thing at 17 cents an hour, staying in a dormitory that has nets on it so they don't jump out the window to commit suicide. And 60% of that big box here in the States, 60% of the workforce is on some sort of public assistance. And, that's, we're paying for that.
True.
You and I are paying for that. We're supplementing.
So if we get rid of that and we have free, but we just have trade, I mean, the problem is
when trade and we put tariffs on things, so so those countries have to compete with, a better product, not just a cheaper product. If it's better, come on, man. A Porsche is probably better than a Ford Focus, and we'll pay that extra money for a Porsche or a Maserati or some such as that. Mercedes-Benz, just to name a few of the, foreign goods. But, you can't convince me that one of those coffee makers that's liable to leak all over the place is, better than a good old-fashioned American percolator.
Well, but you understand this, just you get economies of scale when you're mass producing, and
we've outsourced so much. And what will our population do if we continue on this road? If we don't have American manufacturing and people making things to sell here and to overseas, and we outsource everything, we're all going to be working for a big box retailer on public assistance.
Well, if we have, say, like steel coming in, and we say, okay, we're going to put this tariff on steel, well, that raises the price for everything for everybody. So the person making minimum wage or a little above all of a sudden can't afford a vehicle that they could have afforded before. Correct?
That could be correct.
Well, that's what happens.
It might be that we have an American manufacturer like O. Henry Ford that wanted to make his stuff to where everyone could afford it.
And that's the key. Now, that's the key right there, is because when you have government coming in and saying you have to do this and you have to do that, that's what's going to start driving our costs up and driving people overseas where they don't have to deal with that. If we dropped that...
we get stuff, and like I say, we get stuff that is messing us up in more ways than one.
Well, yeah, we got toys with lead in them.
Absolutely. Got toys with lead, sheetrock. Just everything. Everything is done in a country that really doesn't care.
All right, Brian, I'm going to let you go. We're coming up on the end of the show here. I appreciate the call. And everyone else online, I wish I could have got to you. I've got about a minute and a half left here. But I think what we come down to, this is just pretty much across the board. It's government. Government is the problem there. When we have government involved, they just screw things up. Every time. We joke about it. We kid about it. Boy, I hope the government doesn't get involved because they'll, everything will be double the price it should be. But when it comes down to it, it's getting less funny as we go through life here, I guess. As we move along, the government's spending more of our money, it's screwing more stuff up, and we just keep getting more of it. That's the problem we're starting to run up on, and that's the problem this show hopefully will help fix. Anyway, we're up on the show. This is Patrick Riggins. Thank you so much for everybody calling in and all the callers we've had and everybody listening. I really appreciate you guys out there. Cindy in Morristown, keep listening. Keep listening to me. Tell others to listen. Appreciate you having you on. If you want more information, go to facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. Hit that like button there. Twitter, we're at Patrick Riggins. Also, you can go to YouTube at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. That's RIGGINS show. And you can get all the old shows, and then they'll have this show up here in a day or two, minus all the commercials and music Tori plays. So, and if you also want to get hold of us, good old-fashioned email, patrickrigginshow@gmail.com. Join me next Sunday afternoon. Well, once again, we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggins Show. Every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Be there.